But today I'm going to sort of focus in on a gap that I've been seeing over and over and over, what that gap is, why it exists, and what we can do to solve it. A lot of different places that I go, departments all over the place, they have these business continuity programs that are in place, and they don't look too bad. You start drilling in and you find out they've got budget, they've got people working full-time, dedicated to the program. Some departments, big departments, that have got 10, 12, 15,000 people in their department, have got a BCP program office with 3 or 4 employees. They've got a manager. It's a full-time position. That's, if someone leaves, they immediately staff it with somebody else. And so they've got this established program. More and more often, the work that I've been called in to do at different departments is in results of an audit. The auditors have suddenly, I don't know where it came from, have started doing audits of IT continuity programs, or of the state of IT continuity. They don't really see it as a program. They just say, we're going to audit IT continuity, or audit the informatics disaster recovery plan, or whatever the term is. When they look at the IT side of things, there's no IT recovery requirements defined for any of the systems. They usually have a list of critical applications, but they have no idea how quickly they need to be recovered. Or they may have picked up some recovery times from the business functions, but they have no idea what sort of loss of data they can tolerate. They have no recovery plans in place, so there's no documentation at all on how to recover the critical systems. So you can have a department with 150 critical applications, probably a pretty good handful of those, 40, that if they go down, it's going to cause significant impact to Canadian citizens, and they have no recovery documentation at all for them anywhere. Systems are being developed and put into play every day. Some departments have got 50 IT projects on the go, and nowhere, anywhere in that entire project process is anybody going out and talking to the business clients and saying, what are your recovery requirements for this application? I would say 60% of the departments that I go to, all of those critical IT systems are sitting in one data center with no secondary site, no recovery documentation, and no recovery requirements. And so this is a problem. So typically, what does an IT continuity operation or program look like? There's no funding, there's no staff, they don't have recovery requirements, they're not embedded in as part of projects, there's no sort of IT recovery response structure or plan or guide for the management level. There's no technical recovery plans, so therefore there's no annual reviews happening. There's horrible audit scores, and if you did a maturity analysis to assess what is the level of maturity of this from a program perspective, they're probably at a 1 or a 2, maybe a 3. And so that's really what IT continuity program. In 2004, when they rewrote the policy in government security, which was called the government security policy back then, there was a big section on business continuity. There was like a couple of pages, and it talked about doing a business impact assessment and having plans and arrangements and testing and all this sort of stuff. And there was 1 or 2 words that said including information management and information technology planning. That was all it said. So there was this big long section, 2 pages, and there was a phrase in the middle of a sentence regarding IT. So then they created this operational security standard on business continuity planning. And same thing, it's, I don't know how long it is, maybe 10 or 12 pages when you print it off. And there's 1 phrase in the middle of 1 sentence on IT, and the other 10 or 12 pages are all focused on business continuity. All the things you need to do to get the people back to work, from a planning, program, maintenance, plans, arrangements, etc. So what's the solution? Well, the solution is, for the departments and the organizations that are interested, they have to basically have to design, develop, and create and implement and run an IT continuity management program. So I said, really, so there is an operational security standard for business continuity planning, so we need to have the equivalent. It doesn't exist from Treasury Board, so let's create one. So let's create the equivalent, an operational security standard for IT continuity planning. So that would be on the right-hand side. Somebody at a senior level says, let's treat this as a program. So they're going to assign some funding, put a manager in place, probably a couple of team leads, get some consulting staff in expertise, and start to implement the program. So the program has to operate on best practices. It's got to be able to, you got to gather recovery requirements, IT continuity recovery requirements for all new systems. And then you need to take all the existing ones and make sure that those are correct. There are a few departments that have gone into where they have a splattering, I guess, or a smattering of recovery documentation. So they might have like 50 critical systems and they've got 8 of them that have got some kind of recovery plan. It's never been tested generally, but they have something written. But the one thing that they're missing is that when you have a big event that takes out a data center or multiple systems, you need IT management needs to get involved to manage the response. You can't just let the techies run around and start solving the problem. So we always suggest that you have a management level plan so that IT, senior management, maybe 1 or 2 people from the business side who represent the most critical can make decisions, help establish priorities, authorize spending money, put pressure on SSC, do all the things that the techies can't do. So you need a management level plan as well as the technical ones. Then you have to practice those, and then you have to test recovery. You have to review it on an annual basis. And generally, I would say that once a department goes through this, if they were audited or had a maturity assessment done, they would have a pretty good score. And you'd be able to genuinely be able to say, yeah, we'd be able to recover things to meet recovery requirements. I'd say the number one thing that would define success or failure is, do you have CIO support? If you don't have CIO support, it's going to be really difficult to get much of this done. So as soon as that happens, you get funding, you can get resources, you can get staff, you can get full-time staff, you can get consulting expertise, etc. If you don't have that, it's going to be basically this bottom corner down here, which is just putting more Band-Aids on. And so what are some of the things that trigger CIOs to say, okay, let's do this? One is an audit. They get this horrifying audit and they look at it and say, why do we have this? Why is this happening? Let's stop this from happening. Or there's a major IT failure or a disaster and everybody comes back and says, well, I know that this has got a 1-hour RTO, recovery time, with 0 loss of data, but we're only taking the backups off site once a month. And it's going to take us 3 weeks to get this back up and running. And the CIO said, this is unacceptable. Solve the problem. Sometimes what happens is there's a department they've been chugging along for a long time, and a new CIO comes in who gets it, and he says, let's do it. So it kind of loops back to the top.
Got a query but short on time? Email your question to info@trm.ca. Just send us your message along with details of your preferred means of contact, and we'll be in touch as soon as possible. You'll find the address at our website, trm.ca.